Hi, this is Luke Zipp from Crocker Farm Auction, and I'm here with a great example of John Bell redware that we'll be offering in our Spring 2021 Stoneware and Redware auction. So as you can see, first of all, it is marked John Bell, Waynesboro. But then this piece is heavily decorated, and really the John Bell pottery is one of the few redware potteries that made redware that mimicked stoneware in decoration. So you can see this jar is decorated elaborately with brushed tulip motif, both on front and back. And then it's dated under each handle 1875. What's great is this piece, we can actually attribute it to a specific decorator at the Bell shop because of the very specific style of tulip decoration, and that is Victor Conrad Bell. So Victor is a son of John Bell. He actually had an accident as a child that severed an artery in his wrist, so he was unable to carry on the family tradition of potting in the typical way, but he really wanted to be a part of the shop, obviously, so he learned to become a very skilled decorator, and he was a great contributor to the shop. There's actually a piece of stoneware with very, very similar decoration to this in the collection of the Renfrew Museum that was made as a collaboration between Victor Bell and his uncle Solomon Bell for Victor's wife Annie, where Solomon threw it and Victor decorated it with this type of tulip motif. So just as a jar without any inscription on the underside, it's a very important piece of John Bell redware. But when you flip it over, you probably won't pick it up with the lights, but you'll be able to see it on our online catalog on crockerfarm.com. There's a very lengthy inscription on the bottom, and I'll read it to you. It says, "This crock was made by Daniel Kaufman, Burlington, Vermont, September 14, 1875, Victor C.B." So again, that bears out that he was the decorator. And he mentions he wants to pay homage to the man who actually threw the pot, which was Daniel Kaufman, he puts in the inscription. So I want to give a little bit of a shout out to my brother Brant, who does a lot of the research, a lot of the in-depth research on pieces that we get in. And it's really exciting actually when we get a piece that's never, that nobody quite has been able to figure out. The man who owned it wasn't able to figure out. Nobody has ever had a reference to Daniel Kaufman potting in Waynesboro. So it's a little bit of a detective case. Brant figured out that Daniel Kaufman is almost surely Daniel Coughlin, so it's probably a mistake in some respect, probably on Victor Bell's part, Coughlin, who was born in Burlington, Vermont. He actually lived at one point in the 1850 census, I believe. When he was 12 years old, he lived with a man named Nathan Miner, who was a potter. And he learned the potter's art up in Burlington. There were a number of very significant potteries up there. But what's really cool is the research on this man, and really this piece documents some of the people that we see their wares and the fruits of their labors, who were journeyman potters, really were journeymen. I mean, they traveled around a lot. They traveled extensively. There was a little bit of, following where the work was. And so Coughlin, he worked in 1860. He was in Charlestown, Massachusetts. In 1870, he was in Hartford, Connecticut. In 1875, we know from this pot, he was in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. In 1818, he was at a small shop in Genesee, New York, near Rochester. And that's just what the census shows up in this one pot. I mean, you probably add another 5 or so stops along the way. He's also in Burlington, Vermont. So he really practiced his trade wherever the job was. And so it's very, very interesting to see. Also, he had an ability to blend in with the style of pottery they were making at the Bell shop, so that he threw a form that really fit in well with what was being made at the Bell pottery. Then I'm sure, in Hartford he made a form that fit in well there. In Charlestown he made a form that fit in well there. So it's fascinating. It's a fascinating story that honestly there could be even more research about, or more research just on journeyman potters in general. But it's a cool piece. I'm kind of surprised that it exists and there's such documentary evidence inscribed on the underside of this pot, and we're just thrilled to offer it in our spring 2021 Stoneware and Redware auction.